The Big Ten wants to move the college football playoff to 24 teams. And at first, you might say, hey, wait, that's way too many. But this actually might be a good thing for the Big 12 and for Kansas State.
You are Locked On Kansas State, your daily podcast on the Kansas State Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Kansas State, your daily Kansas State Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Christian Rauh, and thank you so much for making Locked On Kansas State your first listen of the day, or maybe your second listen, because welcome on in to this bonus episode of Locked On Kansas State. We're still grooving with Jon Grove of GoPowerCat.com, as we do on every Tuesday on this show, and got a fun one for you today as we get in of your afternoon fix of Locked On Kansas State. John, the Big 10 is talking about expanding and giving a proposal to move the 12-team college football playoff to 24, outlining a potential future 24-team college football format. And there has been some interesting viewpoints under this vision. The biggest things here that I don't like, that I want to talk about right off the bat, it would take away conference championship games. Big Ten calls them, quote, artificial and dangerous. The college football playoffs would eventually expand to 24 teams, likely around 2029. This plan would include extra rounds of playoff games, including home site games before the quarterfinals. Love the home site portion of that. And the Big Ten views elimination of title games as reducing risk, as we mentioned, and adding more meaningful games through the season. Interesting. It's an internal concept. It's nothing official yet. Of course, I want to make sure that's very clear. Right now, we are planning on playing a 12-game college football playoff, 12-team college football playoff in 2026. I think this is actually a good thing for Kansas State. And the reason I say that is, look, hey, Kansas State doesn't have a national championship right now. More opportunities means more opportunities.
Yeah, and you mentioned as well, Christian, as far as the meaningless games go and stuff like that, a lot of people would say, well, it would devalue the regular season. Well, for any other team that's not in the Big Ten, say, or no, let's say like ex-Ohio State and Michigan, you say anybody else, like you can throw in an Illinois or an Iowa, or even just say the Big 12 schools in general, that means more meaningful games for you. That means more opportunities for you to get into the field. And essentially the way I'm looking at it as well, it's if you do include the automatic bids, then you'll have like several opportunities. But even without the automatic bids as well, it kind of shapes up to be just the top 25, except one team gets left out. And I think that could be, if we don't take the automatic route, I think that could be a good way we look at it too. Yes, I think the power schools should get the automatic bid given the amount of hurdles that they had to go through. But at the same time, I think you also have to look at it saying, all right, well, who are the best 24 teams in the country? And that's no slide towards any of the smaller schools that may get the opportunity as well. But I would also, I don't know. It's really convoluting, to say the very least. I think we're still a few years out from that. I think the Big Ten, to their credit, they have been asserting their dominance in all these talks lately. They're talking the talk and walking the walk. Like, the SEC, they're going to be all big, angry, and they're just going to be all. Greg Sankey's going to wants to be the overlord that wants to wreak havoc on this land. I don't know if that's Hobbit sound asking or anything like that. I'm not into the mythologies or anything like that, but the SEC hasn't backed it up. The Big Ten certainly has with the last 3 years. So, and I think those are really the two main parties there that'll likely come up with the decisions. Well, you could come away with some of its decisions if you're able to align on several aspects, but the schedules certainly haven't shaped out that way. Because the SEC, to their credit, they finally moved up to 9 conference games. They do have a power school included. Meanwhile, the Big Ten, they have 9 conference games, but they don't have the exception. They don't have the exemption where not exemption. They don't have the strict rule where you're supposed to play one power school. And I don't know. I think as far as there's several aspects where you could look at saying, oh well, this conference like the SEC is an overall slugfest, kind of like Big 12 basketball. They deserve to get a lot more respect. And then the Big Ten said, well, look at us. We won the last 3 years. And stuff like that. I don't know. Indiana had a weak non-conference schedule last year, but it didn't bother them because all they did was just win. They beat the teams that were on their schedule. Just like Texas Tech, they beat the teams on their schedule. And I'm sure that's going to apply for this year as well for Texas Tech. So I don't know. I mean, the scheduling is so convoluted these days. There's 17 teams in the ACC, and there's like half of them that play 8 conference games, half that will play 9. It's all over the place, Christian, but I do think ultimately in the long run, a 24-team playoff would be great for college football. I think it would be great for the Big 12 as long as they don't cave into any automatic bid status where they'd be caving into the inferiority of a Big 10 and the SEC. You know, there's been rumors in the past where Big 10 and the SEC were wanting to get 4 automatic bids, while the Big 12 and the ACC would have 2. I think that'd be a heavy mistake. And if Brett Yormark ever jumped at that bit, then he should be hitting the first train smoking out of town, because I don't think the Big 12's at that stage yet to accept any level of inferiority yet. You're on the same level. Yes, you gave up some political power in a way because you gave the voting rights to the commissioners, but as long as you're able to keep in lockstep with the remaining power conferences, I think that's all you could ask for right now.
Yeah, I completely agree. Let's talk more about this because I think there's some good. I do think there's some bad too still to discuss on this. We'll do that on the other side right here on Locked On Kansas State. But first, this episode of Locked On Kansas State is brought to you by Mazda. This is Mazda's moving the game forward for those who show there's more to the score. That's what's on the screen. And that's what happened in the game last night in the women's basketball game between Kansas State and Baylor. Baylor took care of business 80-54 in the matchup, but the young team of Kansas State certainly showed their potential and exciting for what the future is going to hold from them, especially true freshman Jordan Spicer. Look, she had 2 fouls early in this game, had to get benched in the first quarter, but she stepped up and led the team with 12 points. She was 4 for 9 from beyond the arc in 3-point shooting and definitely stood out when it was a tough game for the Wildcats. To me, that reminds us what it really takes to raise the bar. That's the extra work off the court, dialing in every detail, giving it that extra fire, that grit, and that I never quit. It's the same thing we do at Mazda. We put in the same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel. What makes it get there is what counts. It's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. This episode of Locked On Kansas State is also brought to you by FanDuel. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? Well, FanDuel is giving you a chance to turn that dream into a reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. All you have to do is use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right. Flight, tickets, the whole shebang, the whole experience. You can do that with FanDuel. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, well, this is a perfect time to lock in and win even more potential things. And now you can not only just get the cash, you could also get sent to the NBA Finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future like the Boston Celtics winning the East or the Denver Nuggets winning the West, and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel. It's the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Hey, welcome back to Locked On Kansas State, and thank you so much for making it the first listen of the day. If you want even more coverage, consider going ad-free, join exclusive Discord, have exclusive access to Locked On Podcast Network's national shows. We'll join the Everydayers Club. You can go to lockedonkansasstate.supercast.com or check the show notes below for more information. We're grooving with Jon Grove here on GoPowerCat.com, from GoPowerCat.com, excuse me. This is Locked On Kansas State. And we're talking about on this bonus episode how it's a good or maybe bad thing for Kansas State, the Big 12, with this expansion of this 24-team college football playoff. Look, to round out the good side of this, and you kind of put some good thoughts in it as well. I think if you're Kansas State, you know, a 9 or 10 win Wildcat team might miss the 12-team college football playoff. We've seen that happen, but it could still get in a 24-team bracket. You know, 8 Big 12 teams at one point have had clear paths to make it to that far. So if you added in a 24-team proposal, you're seeing not only the Big 12, but you're seeing some of the other, Power Four winners get a chance to make it in. Like you think about Iowa State a few years ago after losing in the Big 12 championship game, they didn't make it in. After Army, if you want to even go to the G5 route, Army was just shy of missing it a few years ago. Syracuse, BYU, of course, comes into play, missing it, being like the snub team over and over again. And I'm sure you could probably find a way to talk about Notre Dame in this conversation. But when you're thinking of a 24 team playoff, I don't think this helps the G5 at all. I really don't. Maybe slightly, but I think expansion is definitely in the eyes of getting more power teams into the conversation. That's why I think this is good for Kansas State. Every week matters more as well. If you remove conference title games, I don't like that. I don't like the fact that you're not going to have a Big 12 championship game. That's just the fan in me. But if you find a way to replace it to make it more focused towards getting to a national championship game, I don't hate the idea. It's not the best thing in the world, but sometimes you have to take away some things to get more for the future. And if that means helping Kansas State get a better chance at getting to a national championship game instead of always being in the back seat behind 4 or 5 Big Ten and SEC teams, then I'm not against it.
So let me bring up a case example. What were the two takeaways from it? For one, as far as the meaningless games go, you look at it 2 years ago where Iowa State had a championship bid on the line, and all they had to do was beat K-State at Jack Trice Stadium. If this was still at a 4-team playoff, Iowa State would not be in the picture. And I don't think Arizona State would have been in the picture either. But those games matter now that you're on a 12-team playoff, and especially with the automatic bids on the line. Iowa State saw that as an opportunity, saying, hey, if we beat K-State, we have a shot at making it to the championship game and clinching an automatic bid. Well, they beat K-State. They got their first 10-win season out of it and forever. Congratulations. And then they got steamrolled by Cam Scatterbo and Arizona State. But when you look again at the automatic bids, there was only one spot for the Big 12, and it was like that for everyone else. But Arizona State and Iowa State, and even BYU to a degree, Colorado, those 4 teams were all in the mix. And only one team came out of it too. And especially with Iowa State and Arizona State, the thing that sucked about is that one of those teams was going to be left out. Now, after the way Iowa State played them at championship game, you deserve to get kicked out of a conversation. As much as I love my BYU brethren, I'm sorry, but when you put up a performance like that against Texas Tech in the championship game, in hindsight, yes, you may deserve it based on a record and the strength of schedule, but not after you lay an egg against Texas Tech. It's some of the scenarios where the championship game, I love the tradition and I love all the grand pastures of all of it, like the Rose Bowl and several of those games. But if it's a game where we're starting to get to a point now where it is teetering towards meaning less than it has been in the past, especially for the Big Ten teams, because we already know those 2 teams will be in the playoffs. And say if the Big 12, if the playoff expanded to 24 teams, the Big 12 will likely have 2 championship teams in the playoff as well.
Are you telling me that the Big Ten rivalries don't matter between Oregon and Rutgers? That's not a rivalry?
No, of course it's a rivalry. I mean, that's the first rivalry I can think of is Oregon.
Geographically, I agree. It's the most
Maryland and Washington. Like, come on, man. Goodness gracious. Let me ask you this, Christian. Would you get rid of the conference championship game if it means getting the opportunity to hosting a home game during the first week of the playoffs?
If we're not doing the automatic bids, yes. If you're continuing to just rely on your conference being good, yes. Because this past year, you in a 2014 playoff, you probably would have got 3 teams in, I would expect, for the Big 12. You may, 2 most definitely, but I think you could have got 3. I think it would have been Texas Tech, BYU, and Utah. And if you are making yourself as only an automatic bid with 2, then no. I think if you are willing to say, hey, we get 3, potentially 4 chances every year because we think we can have 4 of the best 24 teams in the nation to go for a national championship game, but that means you can no longer fight for Dr. Pepper, then yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that odds any day. And because also, if you get to host a home playoff game, that's a high profile game. That means more money. So even
Yeah.
without a title game, more college ball games, versus bowl games means revenue for campus playoff games, greater national exposure, better recruiting leverage for Big 12 schools. And although most of them are in the state of Texas or have Texas pipelines, recruiting leverage never hurts. So for Big 12 teams, the more teams they get postseason marquee dates, the better for recruiting and brand building. So I'm all for that in the case of and watching this expand, and especially when it comes to Kansas State. When I think of revenue from campus playoff games, definitely something like our rivals of Iowa State probably wouldn't mind that, as they are.
Yeah.
What's a better word for definition? Poor.
Yeah. No, you hit it right on the spot. I'm at the point now where, after having this conversation, where the 2014 playoff without a championship game would go a long way for the Big 12. It'd certainly go a long way where you don't have BYU getting handed a penalty, like getting costing themselves a spot after having to face Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship game, whereas you have both of these teams in the 2014 playoff, and the fact that Texas Tech and BYU have the opportunity of hosting home games. And how it relates to K-State, you're in that power opportunity. I do feel bad for the group of five, though. If they're being relegated to one spot, then what are we doing here? You might as well just put in the antitrust laws at this point. If you're anybody, as far as those conferences, I do feel bad for them. But at the same time, it's the home opportunities for you, and for K-State, I would certainly go a long ways for not only your program, your school, your fans, but especially the town of Manhattan, where you get primetime opportunities like this. The local economy is going to benefit big time. All these small shops in Manhattan, they're going to see it's going to be like Christmas Black Friday sales. Essentially, the economy boost is certainly going to be there for sure.
Well, I'll push back just a little bit on this, and obviously we wouldn't be using the Associated Press Top 25, but just something to keep in mind here: the AP Top 25 to end the season, 4 G5 schools were in the top 25. So, I mean, Tulane, James Madison, Navy, and North Texas were all in the top 24, actually. TCU was the 25th team. So if you were going to go just off the top 24, and obviously there would be other rules and stipulations, but if you were just going to do that, you would get 4 G5 teams in. TCU would be the last one out. And then in the eyes of Big 12, we wouldn't get 3 teams in. We would get 4, because Houston was sitting as the 22nd team in the AP Top 25. So if they just went off the AP Top 25, which I don't recommend they do. I don't recommend the AP is the reason that they pick who makes the playoffs. But if that was the case, just for this hypothetical, because we have years for this to even maybe happen, the Big 12 would have 4 teams in. The G5 would also have 4 teams in. Do you feel okay with that, knowing that you have 4 teams from your conference and 4 other G5 teams? Now, to put it in the conversation, put it in the context, I mean, you'd have a lot of SEC teams. You'd have Ole Miss. You'd have Georgia, Texas A&M, Alabama. You'd have Texas. You'd have Oklahoma, Vanderbilt. You're talking 7 SEC schools. So if there are 7 SEC schools in the top 24 and only 4 Big 12, does that seem fair to you? I mean, just based off last year's resume?
And perhaps, I mean, that could be the talking point to try and persuade the SEC. If they want to get to 24 teams, that'll be the most amount of teams that you can get into the field. But, I'm to the point now where this 13-person committee is so incredibly worthless. And anything that comes out of the league decisions head is like Hunter Yurchek, the Arkansas athletic director, had made some boneheaded comments with Notre Dame and Miami and that whole entire situation last year. I think it's as simple as this. You got to go back to a computer model. Get back to the BCS computer method, where you're able to rank the best teams based on what the computers have to indicate. All right, it's at first it was an old, outdated system, and people tend to trust more of the people's view of where the games were selected. But as time worn on, the influence has gotten stronger from ESPN and more so the SEC of trying to get their teams in, and I hope as well, if this thing ever expands, This has ESPN has got to lay up on the amount of control it already has. Yes, you're already given a few games to TNT. That's a start, but let Fox, let CBS, let NBC get some of these broadcasting companies into the fold as well, because this influence that ESPN has is not good for college football. It doesn't do anybody any favors.
It would be amazing to see the playoffs expand. I know I was against it in the past, but I think it would be better for the I think it's better for the sport in the long run. Hate to say that out loud, but I think it's true. And just looking at the potential hypotheticals is exciting. Again, we're just going off the AP Top 25 here, just use numbers. But if you were a 2014 playoff right now, you'd have 7 from the SEC, 6 from the Big 10, 4 from the Big 12. You'd have Notre Dame as the independent, 4 from G5. I think the only conference that would hate this and would probably fight for automatic bids compared to last year is the ACC, as they would only have 2 teams in Miami and Iowa in the mix. Jon Grove, where can everyone find you?
Oh, you guys can follow me at gopowercat.com. We got a lot of articles coming out, whether it's looking in depth at where the K-State roster is for this upcoming football season. Of course, Fitz has his daily deliveries. We got some coaching hunt boards set. So a whole lot of things going on at gopowercat.com. Real quick as well. So you're talking about the 2014 playoff. How many times would K-State be in that mix? I think around 2. No, not 2 times. It's probably around like 3 or 4 times where K-State would probably be, like, if you look back at 2014 when the playoff started, I'd probably say K-State would be in there like 3 or 4 times. I don't know. That's a discussion for another day. That was just another thought that popped into my mind real quickly there.
Yeah, I think it's a little higher, but I mean, not by much. So, yeah, but hey, would you take that? I think I'd take that.
Yeah, for sure. Are you kidding me? Come on, man. That'd be awesome.
Absolutely. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you back here tomorrow, right here on Locked On Kansas State.